What's up, you guys? This is Felicia, your Ballin' and Bipolar Success Coach here, going live. I chose to do this for launch week. I think this is going to be kind of cool if we can really build a community of people looking to get better. You might be bipolar, you might be a parent of someone who is bipolar. I've got a lot of parents reaching out for their kids, and if they're anything like my parents were, they were desperate for answers for their children as well. My book launched this week. I think it launched, yeah, it launched on May 30th. But through June 7th, the Kindle version is going to be 99 cents only. You do not need a Kindle version, or you don't need a Kindle to download the Kindle version. What I'm going to be doing today and this week is we're going to go through some things that are talked about in the book, of course, but I wanted to open these lives up to you guys so that we can start to really build a community of people that want to get better. You know, they might need guidance, you might need guidance, hope, whatever that may be. You might have questions for me about the book if you haven't gotten the book, or if you have got the book and you just want to know what, when, where, how, why. I think it's a good place for me to understand you guys more. If you have specific questions for me, things that you might struggle with, questions, comments, concerns, as long as this is a supportive space, I'm happy to answer questions that you guys might have. So again, so my book, by the way, it's on Amazon. I'm trying to get it on Barnes & Noble, but right now, go to Amazon. You can download your copy from Kindle, 99 cents only until June 7th. After that, I think the prices are going up to like $8 for the Kindle version. The paperback version is $8. We could not get that any lower due to printing costs. The book itself, I've gone over a lot of information. If you guys want to take a look at my Facebook page and check that out. I have been told recently that, because I wrote it because my story is specifically bipolar and kind of how to rebuild your life, but I've been told from multiple people that it's not necessarily, you don't have to be bipolar to get something out of that book. You know, I had a lady tell me that it's almost a methodology for any kind of trauma. You know, whatever you've been through in your life, you plug in that method for X amount of trauma or X what you've been through. So for me, it was bipolar, but for you, it might be different. Maybe you are bipolar, maybe you've suffered from different types of other kind of loss and trauma, abuse, anything like that. Anxiety too. Anxiety is a big one. So I'm gonna kind of go on with you guys today. We're gonna go through the bipolar life cycle in detail. If anybody does join while I'm going on, feel free to like and comment, and then we can chat that way. So you can comment, you can ask any questions throughout this kind of forum. So I'm keeping an eye on who is here. I'm keeping an eye on the comment section, but I'm just going to kind of dive right in, and you guys can join and you can watch this later if you would like to. So first we're going to go through, what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to go through the bipolar life cycle is 10 stages. Really, it's 9, and the next one is really the pivotal moments and knowing what those pivotal moments are for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through it quickly, and then we're going to dive into each section and really why I came up with a bipolar life cycle, okay? So first, we have number 1 in the bipolar life cycle is flailing. Flailing could be you are asking yourself, like, well, what just happened? For me, this was a manic episode. For you, it could be different. It could be hypomania, could be highs and lows, things like that. But it's really just not knowing what the F is going on, okay? So that's when you're going through something and you need to then get out of it. So whatever flailing means to you. The next stage in the bipolar life cycle, and this could really be called like the trauma life cycle, it's the aftermath. We're going to deep dive into the aftermath. This could be anger, pity, blame, depression, reality hits. That's the aftermath. Number 3 is acceptance. This is when we understand that there's even a problem to be solved. So we need to accept our diagnosis or whatever might have happened, but not accept it meaning just let it lie and don't worry about it. That just means accepting that we have an issue in the first place. kind of surrendering to that and stop like fighting that. Stop being in denial about it. That was a huge problem for me, was just it was coming to the conclusion that like, oh, I'm bipolar. Like, oh, so that kind of thing. And we're gonna go more into depth with this. Number 4 is learning how to breathe again. That's going to be managing your diagnosis the right way. Number 5 is climbing back up. That would mean we're trying to rebuild our foundation. And what does that look like? We'll get into it. Number 6 is learning who you are. This is paramount. This is more belief systems, standing for something, morals, things like that. Number 7 is gratitude. I think along the road, gratitude can come sooner rather than later, but it's definitely, you have to get to a certain place where you're even open-minded to the idea of having gratitude. So that's why gratitude is number 7. Number 8 is learning how to be in love with being alive. So this would be after we're stable, after we've gotten our systems in place, things like that. Now it's like, now we're asking the question, who do I want to be, and learning how to love your life. Number 9 is thriving. Number 9 goes into more of the development, personal development, education, where you want to go in your life, kind of finding your magic is what I like to call it. That's when you're thriving. And what thriving also has to do with is staying centered, staying level. And it's not necessarily like you're better than anybody if you're level for an X amount of time, because you know that a storm could hit, but you know what to do if and when that storm does hit. Okay, so that's really thriving. Number 10 is pivotal moments. Pivotal moments, what I mean by that is like throughout your life, you're going to have different moments in time where you were like, damn, that was a game changer. Okay, so for me, my first pivotal moment was when I asked the question, why not me? Okay, instead of poor pity me, why did this happen to me? I was like, why not me? That was the first pivotal moment. So that's those times are really important. So you can go back and be like, what was my first pivotal moment, or what was a life-changing thing that happened, or what was a kind of a mindset shift? Like those are huge moments. And so taking note of those and knowing when those were are really, really important. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through these step by step. Okay. So number 1, flailing. This could be a lot of different things to different people. Let me get a sip of water. Flailing for me was the manic episode. Okay, I was literally flailing. I didn't know what was going on. I had no touch with reality, all that kind of stuff. For you, maybe you're not bipolar 1, maybe you've never had a manic episode. Flailing could be having anxiety far too often and not knowing why. Flailing could be a multitude of things, but you're in a place where you're out of control. Okay, it's like we're either newly diagnosed or we don't have control over the diagnosis. We are just flailing, like raw dog in life, okay? Now, after a manic episode, or after you have anxiety, or after you catch, oh, something is going on, then that leads us to stage 2, the aftermath. So a lot of the time when it comes to with trauma or loss or mania or any of this, there's some kind of aftermath. And what I mean by aftermath is, what is the fall that happened because of this event? So for me, the event was the manic episode. For you, the event could be something else. Just plug it in. But there's always some kind of aftermath. So the fall, this could be loss of your sense of self, loss of identity. You could be angry. You could be blaming other people or blaming the world for your problems. This could be blame and guilt, shame. We could be going through mad bouts of pity. You feel bad for yourself. I like to call this kind of that victim mindset. And now listen, you are it's when you have a victim mindset, okay, that means that yes, sometimes you need to acknowledge that something did happen. But there comes a time, and we'll get to that you have to take ownership. And you have to take responsibility for your life, because it's not your fault that you're depressed or you've had some form of abuse in your life. It's not your fault that you've been diagnosed bipolar. But what are we going to do to actually enjoy our life? Are we going to stay in the aftermath? Are we going to stay blaming people? Are we going to stay pissed? Are we going to stay angry and shameful? Are we going to, So all of that goes into play, and that is just the natural cycle, okay? And that's what we're getting into. So once we have been through kind of the aftermath, the next stage is really saying, okay, like, how can I move forward though? Okay, so that's where we go to acceptance. I need to accept that something is actually going on that I need to find a solution for. So, in acceptance, when we're talking about bipolar specifically, stability is your number one job. There is nothing more important. Now, I'm going to have a lot of people that are going to be like, well, I have kids and I have responsibilities and all this stuff. I get it. But think about it this way. This is what I said in the book too. Think about it this way. When an addict is getting sober, their number one priority is staying sober, actively living in sobriety. It is the same with stability. It is the same with getting stable. Because if, and I know this because my dad's an alcoholic and he's been in AA, he said, you all were not the priority when I was getting sober. Work was not the priority. It was staying sober. Now, he did fulfill his responsibilities as a father, and he went to work and he came to our games and stuff like that. Like, he did not leave his duty of being a father and having a job, but he knew that he had to separate from his job. He got another job because they were all like alcoholics, and he knew it wasn't the right environment for him, so he had to get another job. And my point in telling you guys that is the same with stability. You know, it's so multi-pronged, and we have to now live our life in a way that hopefully a manic episode will never happen again. Hopefully we won't fall into deep, dark depression, and we now have to live our life combating that every day. And that's what acceptance really is about. It's like, number one job is stability, and what does that mean? Later on in the week, we're going to go through the bipolar life cycle, or I'm sorry, the bipolar 4-square box, and in box 1, it's stability. So there's all kinds of prongs to that. But that's what I'm saying is, for acceptance, stability is our number one job. Finding routine. What are the right medications you can take? There's all kinds of supplements that can help your energy levels, vitamins, things like that. I will tell you to the cows come home that I am not a doctor. I am not here to diagnose. I am not here, tell you what meds to get on, nothing like that. And by the way, if you're not on medication, or if you have a block about that, I understand, I guess, that. I think that if I have a headache, I'm going to take headache medicine. Same goes. It's a lot of people find they have trouble in thinking that I have to be medicated my whole life to be like normal. But think about somebody with diabetes. They have to take insulin to be okay. It's the same thing. It's just for your brain. So that mindset shift needs to happen really quickly. Is if you need help and modern medicine can help you, why not try that at least? Okay. But you need to get a trusted psychiatrist and a trusted therapist that can help you through that. So I was lucky enough to have a psychiatrist that diagnosed the right disorder, and finding the right medications was two-year process. You have to understand what works for you, what works for your brain, what works for your moods, dosages. There's switch ups that can happen. I would say, in a general sense, and this is all doctor approved because I've been through it and my doctors did this with me, it was like 90 days, like full 90 days to even see if the medication is working. Really, it's 6 months, because you want to see when the medication is affecting your body and then how that's manifesting. So really, it could be like 6 months on one type of med. Now, I was on 3 types of meds from day one, and then about 6 months later, like, we would switch things up because we needed to know where my levels were and all that kind of stuff. So just take that into consideration. But you need a trusted doctor that diagnoses the right disorder and that is also listening to you. It is our job here to do daily check-ins and have a routine, because daily check-ins are going to tell us what our mood is like. How did we wake up in the morning? Knowing this disorder is paramount. I cannot stress that enough. Knowing this disorder, knowing how you feel when mania is coming on, how you feel when depression is coming on. The education and the knowledge is the power. So if you know, oh shoot, I feel depression coming on, what am I going to do to get out of it? That's where the solutions are coming in. So that's where we're going to go kind of next. But first is stage 3, acceptance. This is being able to map out your bipolar success plan. If we were to work together in a coaching capacity, this is like stage 1. We're going to map out your days. We're going to map out all of like, what do you do? What do you do for hobbies? All that kind of stuff, so we can map out a routine, how to be productive, but take baby steps so that you're not so overwhelmed. Okay. Step 4, learning how to breathe again. This is where we're really talking about managing the disorder. So in stage 3, it's more about like pure survival. I know I need help. Stage 4 is when we're really learning how to manage the disorder and take control over it. So a lot of people, there's a book called Owning Bipolar, and he's talking about like how to control it. And there's a lot of people out there, I think, that think bipolar like wins, like bipolar rules. And when I'm depressed, I just have to lay down to it. That is not freaking true. It is not true. It does not have to rule your life. It can be debilitating. It is real. It is not all in your head, but you can fight back. And that's the whole point. So learning how to breathe again is understanding what kind of solutions we can have for mania and depression. Understanding your triggers, which means like what brought it on in the first place, how you feel when depression and mania hit, and what are you going to do if and when that happens? Now, what this also is not fearing bipolar. Don't fear depression. Don't fear mania. Oh my gosh, what if? What if I have a mood swing? Da, da, da. Just know that it's part of the game. Here's the power in this. A lot of people are fearful of bipolar. They're so fearful that they're going to fall into depression. I absolutely was so scared that depression was going to hit again, or I was going to have a manic episode again, all this kind of stuff. Now, kind of that fear of failure, that is what drove me, because I never wanted to have a manic episode again. But for me, mania is almost easier to kind of reel back in, because you're like, I have too much energy. How do I reel myself back in? Depression, for me at least, it can just freaking hit. Like, there doesn't have to be an onset for depression. I'm talking about right now, today, I could just have a wave and just like turn off and just be, it's wild. Depression is freaking wild. But I know when that happens, I'm like, I know what not to do. So that's what that's most important, what not to do versus what to do. Both are so important. So you have to know how you feel when mania and depression and anxiety come on, because if you don't know how you feel, that's when you can slide in. That's when you can fall too hard or fly too high. So understanding and identifying what it is freaking paramount. Then the next step is, how do I calm down from mania? How do I get back up from depression? So that's where you work out your own solutions. And it wasn't until probably, 8 years later that I really knew what not to do and what to do when depression would come on. That's why I'm trying to kind of shorten that for you guys. And we'll talk about all that. But solutions for me, for mania specifically, I know that if I have too much energy, I need to first like go back to basics and take into account, what am I putting into my body? Am I getting enough sleep at night? Am I on my meds? Are my meds effective still? One time I was going through really big highs and lows, which was weird because that usually doesn't happen a lot. This was a few years ago, and it ended up my meds were expired and they hadn't been working for like months. And then there we had it. And I called my psychiatrist and I was like, what is going on? And he was like, well, first of all, so we found out so it's like, isolate the issue. What is the issue? Do you have a new person in your life that might be causing anxiety? And then it brings on your anxiety, like isolate the issue. And then we need to understand your own solutions. This is all solution mindset. So how do I come down from mania? I make sure that I, number one, with the routine in place, it always kind of keeps me level, just having a routine in place, and knowing that there are different aspects to mania and like anxiety. Breathing exercises, laying on the floor and making sure that you're relaxed, doing things, going to the sauna and like doing those sorts of things to keep your body just kind of level. There's many things that you can do for mania. You can exercise, get your energy out. Sometimes that releases more endorphins and it makes you more high. So you need to figure out what's going to work for you. For depression, for me, And this is proven by doctors, by the way. I would never spill off stuff that either hasn't worked for me or hasn't been doctor approved. All of this is all the above. Distraction. It's pure distraction. To get out of depression, that's all it is. It's very easy to go and let depression lie on you and go to bed and just wait it out, which doesn't really work, because depression, maybe you can wait it out, but what if it's weeks? What if it's months? Like, what if you're in a haze for months? Like, F that mess. Like, I don't have time for that. So I know what not to do. I know that I need fresh air. I know I need to go help somebody. I know I need to distract myself, go hang out with my nephew, go do something, keep myself busy. And then by the time you do that, the clouds begin to lift, because your brain, you cannot think your way out of depression, you all. I can't stress that enough. You cannot sit here and say, I need to get out of depression. Life sucks. I need to get out of depression. Like, it just reiterates all the depression. So you have to distract yourself physically. It's like, take your body out of your mind so that your mind is focused elsewhere. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's part of learning how to breathe again. Also, why me to why not me? That is definitely in learning how to breathe again. That's the first mindset shift. So if you're living in a world where the glass is half empty and we're poor pity me and why did this happen, all that kind of stuff, you have to get to a place where you can go from why me to why not me. There's millions of people that struggle every day. We're not special. You might be special in one of God's children. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in life, people have ailments, people have problems, people have disorders. Why not me? Let's go find the freaking solution. That's the mindset shift. Okay. Now, number 5, climbing back up: foundation, confidence, independence, and joy. So this is one of my favorites. I believe that when I lost my sense of self, a huge part of that was because I felt dependent. I didn't feel a sense of independence anymore. I lost my sense of my self-esteem. I lost my worth and value. You know what I mean? Like, I just lost who I was. I didn't feel good anymore. I didn't think I looked good anymore. I wasn't doing anything that I enjoyed anymore because all the joy was gone, and that's part of the aftermath, okay? So when you start to think about how to climb back up, we have to get a sense of confidence, independence, and joy back in. Now, all 3 are not going to come at once, but work on one of those 3 and then the other 2 follow. So if you want to gain confidence back in whatever aspect, maybe it's you want to gain confidence back in what you look like or how professional you are, or maybe you want to get better at your job and you found confidence because you were really good at your job, or maybe you don't have a job now, so you need to find something of worth that you can have confidence in, okay? So finding your worth again. I think sometimes independence comes before that. So like some kind of purpose, because I think finding a sense of purpose and being productive gives you a sense of like, I feel independent, which brings you confidence. So sometimes I think working on independence, purpose, responsibility, like those things might come first for you. And then you're like, I feel kind of good. Now you got some confidence back in. Then with those 2 things in place, joy usually follows. Okay. Then you can start asking the questions of like, what made me happy before? What do you know what makes you happy? Do you know what you find joy in? What is going to bring that back to your life? Things like that. Then what we want to do is number 6 is learning who you are. So for me, the reason I put this in here is because my belief system changed dramatically. I think belief system, and don't get this twisted, you don't have to be religious to have a belief system, and if you are religious, rock on. But this is more about internal morals and values. Like, what are you going to stand for in your life? What are you going to not stand for? What kind of bully are you going to stand up against in your life, kind of thing? That country song, it's like, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. I think that's so true. So what kind of values do you have, and what kind of belief system do you have? I think that's so important to just knowing who you are, like at a core level. That's what this is about. Okay. Now, Number 7 is gratitude. And if you're here and you're like, there's no way I could have gratitude, you're just not there yet. I wasn't there either. It took me a long time. It took me years to like have gratitude. And there's different senses of gratitude. Okay. So there's big picture gratitude where you can be thankful for your diagnosis and like all this stuff that comes in time. But there's daily gratitude, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you live in a world where you hate everything and you wake up and you know it's going to be a shitty day, it's probably going to be a shitty day. You know why? Because you've already told yourself that. Like the universe listens. Okay. So if we shift and if we look to find the gratitude in your days, maybe at the molecular level is where you have to start. Maybe you woke up with a roof over your head. Maybe you woke up and know you do have a loved one that loves you and supports you. Maybe you woke up and that's it. You woke up today and that's the gratitude you have. Maybe you woke up and you have a dog or an animal that cares about you. Like, find the little things. It's all about the little things. It's, don't sweat the petty stuff, and most things in life are petty stuff. Like, we have to get to a place where we are looking for the beauty and looking for the gratitude. And in that, we live with a glass half full mindset. So for me, I did like gratitude lists, but I didn't even believe them when I wrote them when I was like really depressed. My dad was like, maybe you should write a gratitude list. He didn't really know how to help me. And I was like, okay. So you have to try to be in it, but I think the practice is there. I wasn't grateful for anything at the time. I was pissed off at the world that I was bipolar and all this stuff, but I was desperate. When I look back at my journal entries, I'm like, thank you, Heavenly Father, for my family and all this stuff, which is true. Thank God that I had my parents. A lot of people don't, so I was thankful for that. But in a bigger level too, we can be grateful for things that people that aren't bipolar or haven't been depressed just cannot be grateful for because they've never had to be. So we can be grateful for the mundane. We can be grateful for just another day at the office. We can be grateful for just a normal day because we didn't feel crappy that day. Like, that's how you can get with this thing. Like, I know today, sitting here today, I haven't had any kind of wild success today. Okay. I haven't had any amazing day. Okay. But I know today I'm not depressed. Shit, that's a great day to be alive in my book, period, point blank. Like, you know what I mean? So that's what we want to get to. And then you want to look for the gratitude. So today I know that I'm grateful because I get to go to my nephew's baseball game today, and I'm really grateful for that. Things like that. Anything that you can find the beauty. And then naturally you're going to look for the beauty. So, number 8, learning how to be in love with being alive. This is where we get exciting and more advanced. Okay. So remember, all of this, if this is overwhelming you right now, don't worry. This is baby steps. Like, a bipolar life cycle could take years to get through. It could take a year. Like, I want to get it to a place where it takes you 6 to 12 months to like get to a point where we're thriving. Now, in learning how to be in love with being alive, this is remembering to laugh every day, professional development, building the right relationships, and getting rid of toxic people. If you have a family member that you can't necessarily get away from, learn boundaries, okay? Remember conflict resolution, control or lack thereof. What do I mean by that? That means that we need to understand what we can control and what we cannot control. So the only thing we can control in life is our effort and attitude. And reaction is about it. Okay. So we can control X amount, but we can't control other people. So we need to understand that. Right now, we should be asking questions like, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? Or is there something in my life that I've always really wanted to do, but like never gave myself the permission to go do it? Maybe it's skydiving. Maybe it's learning how to play the guitar. Maybe it's riding a horse and you're like, that's not for me. Whatever that is, deep dive into like your soul and find out what have you always wanted to do so that we can really learn how to flourish. And then also, perspective is everything here. We can see where our priorities are. We can see clarity. All these kind of things is learning how to be in love with being alive. And I want you to know too that in this stage and really throughout your whole life, when you try new things, you might find out that that thing is not for you. That is fine, because on that road, you'll find out what is for you. If you try something and fail, Who cares? Try again. If you try something and you find out it's not for you or you hate it, cool. Check it off the list. You know that's not for you. Great. You know what I mean? Like dwindle the list down. I remember one time, and part of like learning how to be in love with being alive is understanding when to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and when to know when unnecessary anxiety can be like let go. So for instance, here's the two examples that I have for this stage. I thought a few years ago, this was probably 5 years ago, I was going to be a real estate agent. And I was in real estate school and all this stuff, and I was like gung ho about it and whatever. Well, number one, when it came to test time, you have to like take a test to like take a test. You have to anyway to be a real estate agent. I couldn't even pass the practice test, and I was all stressed out about it. I was like, this is way too hard. By the way, real estate agents, you all rock on. But I went on my road trip, and I had like a moment of clarity, and I said, I don't need this. I don't need this stress. I don't even want to be a real estate agent because for me at that time, being a real estate agent, not a fit. I had a 9 to 5 job that had to pay the bills. So if I were to actually build a real estate business, I would have to work all weekends, all evenings, and that is something I was not going to do. And I was like, F this mess. I don't need this. And it was like, I can say goodbye to that. Like off my list of things to do. And it was so nice. And I questioned myself. I was like, am I a quitter? Is that what it is? But I didn't have a bad feeling about it. I didn't feel like a quitter. I felt like, this is nice. I don't need this. You know what I mean? Like that's not my path. Now the difference is when I started my sales job in 2022, I was uncomfortable as hell. I was stressed out as hell, but I knew that it was the right path, and it was something I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with and learn the skill of sales because I knew it was the route I needed to go down. So know when to have the tenacity to hang on to something and push versus something that's not a fit for you or not a fit right now and let it freaking go. Okay, so those two things are really important. Number 9, thriving. How exciting. So this stage in our bipolar life cycle is really when we pretty much got life nailed, right? But we're never gonna get cocky. So thriving is always listening to the right people, understanding where people are that you want to be, and go and listen and implement. So my friend Allie, she was where I wanted to be. She knew me, all this kind of stuff. I listened to her and I implemented, and like here we are today. So stuff like that, you need to always feed your soul. Listen to the right books, read the right books, listen to the right podcasts, all that kind of stuff. I listen to books because I listen on Audible. And by the way, my book will be on Audible soon if you're not a reader like me. And this is where we really work on continued education in whatever facet that means for you. You know, never give up on educating yourself about bipolar, about yourself, about your career development, anything like that. But now we're asking the question like, what is my Super Bowl? Who do I want to be? What do I want to bring to the table that is life? Like, what effort do I want to put in to this life to live authentically as myself? I want you to be authentically yourself because we have figured out bipolar. Bipolar is something like laundry, okay? We're never going to be cured of bipolar. We're always going to have to go through the cycle sometimes. Now, I will say that I today don't go through a lot of highs and lows. I really don't. I work on staying level every day but I don't get cocky. I stay taking my meds. I stay going to doctor's visits. I do all this stuff daily now. It has become natural for me, so it's not overwhelming. You'll get there. But here's the thing that I know. I know because I am not cocky and I respect my disorder. I know that it put me in the hospital. I know that it can put me in the hospital again if I don't take care of this thing every single day. And I also know that if mania or depression come on, I know what to do to get out of it, to get back to thriving. Okay. So it's the cycle. It's if you start to flail, if you start going through that aftermath again, go straight back to stage 2, 3, and 4. Go back to the basics. What do you need to change? What did change, if anything? You know, go back to those things and start asking yourself those questions. Now, in thriving, you want to be balling with a little side of bipolar, okay? You want to do something that you've always wanted to do, and never gave you permission to do so. You also want to ask yourself different questions now that we're stable, now that we have our life in order. Like for me, when I was back socially, I wanted to travel by myself. I went and did it. Then 2 years later, I was like, life is getting too easy. I'm not making a lot of money. What's the next step? Got into sales. Like when you start searching, scratch that itch. You know, when you have a recurring thought or a recurring question, or if you're feeling unfulfilled, where are we feeling unfulfilled in our lives? That's the whole thing. So that's what thriving really is living in a way that we're balling every day, but we know that we're bipolar. I've got one viewer and one reaction today. If you are on there, you can type in a comment if you would like to. If you have any questions, just let me know. And then we're going to finish up with pivotal moments. So I want to go through with you kind of my top 3 pivotal moments. And then what you're going to do is you can kind of fill this in to your own life and say, oh, that did happen, or oh, something like that happened. First pivotal moment was in 2000, I don't know, 13, 14, when I asked myself, why not me? Let's find a solution. The next pivotal moment was when I understood how to have gratitude in my diagnosis. When my sister got pregnant, she was pregnant in 2015, I think it was, or no. My nephew was born in 15. So anyway, when I learned, holy crap, I am so grateful that this disorder manifested 5 years ago, so that by the time I was going to have a responsibility in raising and helping to raise my nephew with my sister, thank God that I had 5 years to come back and get stable again and become myself again and have the capacity to help my sister. That is gratitude, okay? So it's understanding those different moments of your life. I think we've got 4 viewers now. If you guys want to, I'm going to stay on. We kind of already went through the bipolar life cycle in detail, and I will save this. I think if you guys get my book, you can actually download this as a free resource as well. If you guys want to, I'll be on here for a little bit and we can go over any questions. So I'll kind of hang out here. You all can drop in a comment if you would like to. And we can go through any questions that we have. What I would like to do with these, if we can, I really want to be able to build this as a community. You know, I see a lot of these bipolar success groups or bipolar support groups, and they're great. I think the sentiment is there, but like, what if we could have a real community where we can like hop on, ask people questions and things like that, and get some real guidance, real tools and support. I'm going to be on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. If we can grow this and if I can get you guys to come on, I will do it every week and we can have kind of Q&A and story time and all that kind of stuff. But it's really about you and what you're struggling with and what you might need help with. And I can build content around all of that. So I've been bipolar now for about 14 years. I think I have a pretty good handle on it. I hope I do if I'm talking about it. But I'm really living my magic as we speak, and I want you guys to do the same. So remember, my book is going to be on sale on Amazon for 99 cents only for the next until June 7th. You can buy the paperback version at $8. And I hope you're balling and bipolar out there.